Studies, Hamad bin Khalifa University, Qatar Foundations. So this is one of the many Meet the Expert sessions. It just happened that we have an amazing first symposium on Islamic psychology, and we'll be able to bring all the experts, the future faculty. So you probably have heard a lot from Dr. Human, who's going to be the program director of our MA in counseling psychology. On my right, doesn't need any introduction, Dr. Khalid Zamzami, also future faculty, and we also have Dr. Venus Mahmoodi, who will be joining us from Columbia University, and there's another Professor Wahdid. Probably we are waiting for him to join us. And Alhamdulillah, so you can see that we are starting a program with the outstanding caliber of faculty. So that shows how serious we are with this program. We're going to start the record straight from the beginning in terms of building a good program and a good college, and eventually will contribute to the vision of Qatar Foundations. So I'm sure you guys have a long day. Some of you probably have heard plenty of discussion on psychology, so I'll just go straight to the point. But before that, just a quick introduction. My name is Iskandar Shah. I'm the Associate Professor in Islamic Finance. I'm also the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs. So apart from my other things, one of the things that I have to do is also ensuring that all the programs are being managed in the way that it's supposed to manage. And I was quite privileged to be with the team in writing the proposal. And Alhamdulillah, they wrote it in such a way that it's very hard to reject such a good proposal, all right? And that shows the quality of the people that we're gonna be brought to College of Islamic Studies. So moving on, let me do introductions of the college quickly. What do we have, and so on and so forth, and then I'll pass the mic to Dr. Human. He will explain a bit more about the program, and then at the end I'll come back to explain to you about the scholarship and also the admission requirement. And then after that, we can just open up for Q&A. If you have anything to ask, especially about your experience, what you're going to get, and definitely you're going to be the first cohort, so you're always going to have that title, the first batch of psychology, and Mukaddimun, all right, so and then so on and so forth. So okay, so College of Islamic Studies is one of the 6 colleges within Hamad bin Khalifa University. We have other 5 colleges: College of Public Policy, College of Law, College of Health and Life Sciences, and also College of Engineering, and the other one, which is College of Humanities and Social Sciences. But the best thing about our college is that we precede the university. We started as Qatar Faculty of Islamic Studies, which eventually give birth to the university and become Hamad bin Khalifa University. So eventually, you probably know that the institutional memory of Hamad bin Khalifa University was started within our college. So that shows that the vision of the leaders of QF, who wanted to build the university based on the Islamic principles. So having said that, that is basically the vision of the university, to make Islamic studies as a root of all the contemporary knowledge, including psychology as well. So apart from psychology, we have Islam and Global Affairs. We have Islamic Finance, which is I'm part of the program. We also have Applied Islamic Ethics. You probably have heard this thing many times. This is also one of the few programs that we can consider that we were the first, and we have the leading authority in applied Islamic ethics. We also have Islamic studies at the master's level, and we just launched successfully our PhD in Islamic studies last year. Okay. And we also have the other program, which is also very interesting and unique, which is Islamic Architecture, Arts and Urbanism, which is a strong collaboration with Museum of Islamic Arts in Qatar. And you probably know that MIA is one of the top museum in the world. All right, so we are quite proud that our program is actually associated with some of the top-notch institutions in the world, based in Qatar. So having said that, psychology will be a new baby, a new child, but Alhamdulillah is going to be a very important child. And if I can quote our dean always say, previously we always see the world from sociology, how they construct society. But today, everything is basically been seen from the psychology perspective, and mental health, and everybody knows it, it's become a very critical and very important issue, not only in the Western world, but more importantly in the Muslim world as well. So that give the birth of this program and understanding the importance of it. So that's it from me. I'll probably pass it to Dr. Human to explain more about the program, and then I'll come back and explain to you about the admission and also the scholarship. Over to you, Dr. Human. Just go to the first.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على نبي بعده السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Very honored and privileged to be with you all here this evening here in Doha. It's really great that we can have this sort of information session in person, so that if there are any questions we can have sort of face-to-face engagement and discussions, inshallah. The vision of this program is quite simple, and I think, as we say, in English, perhaps preaching to the choir when I say this, and that is that the field of psychology has been, since its inception, one that has been very secular and Eurocentric to begin with. Muslims, whether in the Muslim world or in the Western world, have always felt alienated or felt like their values, traditions are not adequately represented in this broader field. And so that has created barriers and hesitation for Muslims, both in the Muslim world as well as in the Western world, to feel a bit of ambivalence and skepticism towards the field of psychology and mental health practice. So part of the stigma not only comes from, just sort of being nervous or ambivalent or anxious about going to a psychologist to divulge all of your secrets, which is a natural source of anxiety. But part of the stigma is the way that the field has operated traditionally. The field has been secular, Eurocentric, antagonistic to religion for a very long time. In fact, if I tell you the story of the beginning of the American Psychological Association in the early 1900s, there was a conscious and deliberate attempt to model psychology on a purist, empiricist model, to such an extent that they had asked all of their members who would have joined to renounce their memberships in another organization called the Society for Psychical Research that was based upon the inquiry and study of metaphysics. And so they said it would tarnish our reputation for individuals to be academically engaged in any sort of spirituality or spiritual inquiry should they be part of the American Psychological Association. And so when you have imported this kind of model to the Muslim world, it has certainly created an ambivalence and an allergy and a hesitation for individuals to go to these spaces. But we recognize that for a very long time that our needs are not being adequately serviced. And so where do we go and what do we do? And people, as my parents told me when I was first going into psychology, they said, you want to be like a crazy doctor? You want to work with insane patients? Why would you do that? Well, that's kind of the perception, is that you never go to a psychologist or a mental health practitioner until you absolutely have to, or you have some sort of very severe pathology. And that has started to change in the past 20, 30 years or so, where both the Muslims in the Muslim world, or globally rather, as well as the discipline itself, has acknowledged that there is a significant barrier and gap between the mental health sector and the populations that it attempts to serve. That when we imported these models, they didn't seem to work as effectively with other cultures and civilizations and populations. And therefore, there has been a renewed interest and a desire on the part of psychologists, including at the APA, looking at the statement of Susan McDaniel, for example, in 2016, now 100 years later, little over 100 years later from the inception of the APA, says something which at that time would have seemed quite radical. But now there's an increasing shift. And the shift is that there's a greater interest in Eastern and non-Western Eurocentric philosophies and epistemologies, as she sort of puts it here. And she even goes as far as to say not to impose Western assumptions and methodologies upon understanding the Eastern experience because it may not necessarily fit. So this was kind of part of her keynote speech at the APA, in her saying that we need to start to look east for new solutions in psychology. And living in a global village now where the world is getting globalized, there's a need for alternative ways, or rather different ways of looking at psychology. And the Muslim world and Muslims are in thirst and in interest and need, where they feel that certainly when, like myself, when I was training early on, even during my bachelor's, I was going to my religious studies classes, with some of my teachers, and we were reading works that dealt with the human nafs and ruh and psychology and mind and all of these things. And then I went to university and they were talking about the same thing, except there was no communication between these two worlds. There were these disparate sort of worlds that existed onto themselves. And so our program envisions a space where that dilemma doesn't have to happen anymore. You, as a psychologist, as a graduate of this program, doesn't have to feel kind of a dissociative identity split or multiple personality split. Many of my students in Turkey used to come to me and say that when I was teaching there. I continue to be visiting faculty there. They would say, we have this like dual identity complex, right? That we don't know how to sort of blend or shift or shape. Like we feel like we're like one thing on the professional end, but another on the other. And so you don't have to do that anymore at a program like this. At a program like this, in fact, we make a claim that the Islamic tradition and the Torah is rich and valuable enough in both its principles and its contributions to be able to afford us a sufficient framework and a rich tradition to draw from in order to generate psychological interventions, ideas, theories, and strategies for psychological practice. And this isn't just a novel idea. This is a topic for a different day, but myself, Dr. Khalid, Dr. Fahad, Dr. Venus, others before us have been publishing and writing about this for some time. And so we kind of bring the culmination of a lot of that experience and literature that has emerged within the past, especially in the past 10 to 15 years. In fact, our model of care that will be taught in the program was recently published. A clinical outcome study, an empirical clinical outcome study was published in the American Psychological Association Journal. This is the first Islamic model of psychotherapy that actually has demonstrated empirical utility and validity, right? So it is an idea to say that we don't reject Western or empirical science. Truth is truth. Haqq is haqq, it's one, right? But we integrate that which is true, but we have to recognize that we need to sift through and filter through that which is sold to us on the basis of culture and social values and principles that don't necessarily match our experiences or our worldviews or our beliefs. And so this is what our program aspires to do, and to, of course, meet the mental health need in Qatar, particularly and beyond for those individuals who are reluctant to seek mental health services. Some of the unique features, as I mentioned, is this, I actually kind of mentioned this, is to sort of generate the next mental health service providers grounded in Islamic principles that will advance the field and the lives of Muslim patients. The unique features of the program is that traditional Islamic values are at the core. We draw upon multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary expertise at the college. if any of you had a chance to visit our symposium. If not, then it's still going on tomorrow. Sit in and take a look. You have quite a diverse, interdisciplinary sort of group of individuals discussing this matter. In fact, the whole idea of the symposium was to inform and help us better construct the curriculum and to critique our own contribution. So tomorrow we have an entire roundtable devoted to allowing the scholars to discuss issues that will be of benefit for us in the construction of this program. Another thing that's really unique, this is a clinical program. It's a counseling psychology program. It's an applied program. It's not novelty. It's not theoretical. It is practical. So we want clinicians. We want to nurture and generate practitioners and those who have research competencies. And in order to do that, the university has put sort of full support behind us to even establish a teaching clinic. So we will actually have a College of Islamic Studies psychology clinic that will house clinical services, mental health services for the community. Right? So people will come here for treatment from the community. And we will have our faculty supervising the students there who will fulfill their hours, as well as establishing key partnerships to have placements available for them to be able to cater to the diverse types of trainings and needs that they might have. So this is one of the great opportunities, as well as field and research opportunities. For example, Dr. Fahad Khan is here from Khalil Center. So the only reason why I can come and join you here from Khalil Center is because Dr. Fahad Khan's going to be running, Khalil Center while I'm out here doing this. And the field opportunities, be it virtually or internships, or they sort of, these diverse sets of experiences are going to be available to individuals. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Khalid to talk about the program structure and the curriculum.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for coming. So the degree that is conferred at the end of the program is a Master of Arts in Counseling Psychology. That's the title of the degree, Counseling Psychology. And these are in-person classes. There is no online option in this program. It's composed of 55 credit hours. 42 are coursework and 7 credit hours of practicum and internship. This will be conducted primarily in our psychology clinic that we are going to establish, but we are also collaborating with other sites such as hospitals, perhaps schools and ministries and other sites for training for individuals who are interested in, for example, school counseling, career counseling, addiction counseling, and hospital-based counseling, etc. The duration of the program is 2.5 years. The first 2 years include coursework, and the remaining time will be focused on the dissertation and thesis. Next is the language requirements. The program is going to be conducted in English, and submitting an English as a second language kind of certificate, or TOEFL or IELTS and things of that nature are required as part of the submission, as part of the application. What do we have here? Unique features of the program. So these are the main courses that we're going to be teaching, and the structure of the courses. There are, you'll see the titles here of the courses, the main courses that are taught in any counseling psychology program, and the Islamic components and ingredients are going to be essential ingredients of each of these courses infused within the curriculum and informed by again, as Dr. Homan said, haqq is haqq, truth is truth. So the truth from Islamic sciences and tradition, as well as contemporary sciences, are all going to be taught in each of these courses. And we are in the College of Islamic Studies taking advantage of outstanding faculty that we have here. We'll have some collaborations with Faculty of Islamic Studies in courses such as the Foundations of Islamic Sciences, so that we as practitioners are both grounded in modern practice of psychology, as well as having some foundation in Islamic studies and Islamic sciences. The list of courses you can see here. I'm going to leave it up for a few seconds. And then, as part of the requirements per the Ministry of Public Health here in Qatar for practitioners, you need a minimum number of hours. So these will be met during your practicum, 100 hours of field experience, and then 300 hours of internship, in addition to a master's thesis or a research project. Student experience. What is your experience? I guess we spoke about some of the features here, that you are in an interdisciplinary space where you have faculty of Islamic studies, people from different backgrounds. You have Dr. Venus Mahmoudi from a clinical psychology background, Dr. Human from a counseling psychology background, myself, Dr. Wahdat come from a psychiatry background. I'm trained in child and adolescent psychiatry. Dr. Venus Mahmoudi focuses on perinatal mental health and women mental health. So we have a diverse group of scholars who are going to be part of this program. And it's a very applied program, as Dr. Human said. And we are, as you saw in the coursework, we have courses on career counseling, addiction counseling, marriage and family counseling. So depending on your areas of interest or your current area of practice, you'll be able to further your knowledge in this area and field. And this is one of the unique features across HBKU, and I was actually a student here at HBKU. I did a master's degree in Islamic ethics while I was doing my medical training. The low student to faculty ratio, it's a very intimate experience between student and faculty here. Gives a lot of opportunities for individualized feedback and mentoring. And as you saw also in our coursework, the last point here, research, experiencing research. We included a thesis or a graduation capstone project as part of the requirements, graduation requirements, because we are hoping to graduate. Well, it's called in counseling training a scholar. A practitioner scholar model, where you are equipped to go out and work in clinical practice, but you also are always thinking in a scholarly fashion and able to engage and do research. And as Dr. Human said, we need to create evidence for the interventions that we are applying and implementing. Right? And as I said earlier, we establish collaborations with all the entities where our students are hopefully going to be working in the future, whether it's government, hospitals, community centers, nonprofit organizations, and the rest of the list here. Program faculty, Dr. Human introduced the team here. Dr. Human, myself, Dr. Wahdat Gourmez, and Dr. Venus Mahmoudi. And next, admission requirements. You keep going, or
let me do that.
Yeah. All right. Perfect.
So thank you so much, Dr. Human and also Dr. Khalid. So let me just go through quickly the admission requirement. So as you can see that this is a unique program where you need a bachelor in psychology or related field for you to be admitted to the master's program. And this is a very critical requirements. So which means that if you come from any other field, it's almost close to impossible for you to be admitted into this program. But there are other ways that you can do this, but you can always meet the experts and later on, to ask the questions in detail. For your undergraduate program, you have to get a minimum CGPA of 3.0. What happens if you have lower than 3.0? They can still consider based on your working experience or other things that you bring it to the table, but you have to go through a path that what we call as a conditional admissions. So which means that you get in, you will not get any financial support or scholarships and everything. So you have to perform in your first semester, you have to fulfill the requirement. And if you meet the requirement in your first semester, then you'll be admitted as a normal student. Then you might be eligible for any financial support or scholarships. So this is quite special circumstances. So you really have to make a very convincing argument. So that's why the personal statement become very critical. If you have basically a low CGPA or coming from a program which is related but not entirely connected to psychology, so your personal statement become quite critical. Over time, we realized that with AI, Some people, and because I manage all the programs, so I can tell you this. Some students, they are not taking these personal statements very seriously, and I know, you use ChatGPT, but at least be creative when you use ChatGPT, remove some of the things, and I mean, the starting point is really reflection that, that you are a bit unethical with your and how we want to admit, as in Islamic program and a counselor psychology, if you reflect this kind of a shortcut, because I watch a lot of drama, so I know that it's like a therapist has to be very patient, listen and be available for your patients and everything. So you have to exhibit those kind of traits as well with your application process. So make effort is very important. I can tell you this: the scholars, they read your personal statement.
Can I
Yeah.
give a brief
Yeah.
example? So
Yeah.
just an example, we were reviewing applications 2 days ago, and one of the personal statements actually said, I'm applying to this program, and then parentheses, please list the specific features of the program. So the student did not even change what ChatGPT suggested. It used the generic statement that ChatGPT, and they didn't even listen to ChatGPT. ChatGPT told them, please list the specific features, and the student just left this. And that's an immediate rejection, even if the student has a 4.0 GPA and, Thank you.
So you heard from the expert. Now they have become expert. We all become expert in ChatGPT as well. Right? So GRE is not required; it's optional. Obviously, having a GMAT or GRE will be an advantage, a value add. But we are not really serious about making a GRE as a requirement. But the most important thing is your English. You have to get IELTS 6.5. Assuming that you don't have IELTS, you have studied in English university, you can use that as an admission process. Okay, then you can make a justification to be exempted from IELTS, or you can take your IELTS in your first semester. Okay, the reason being is that sometimes you have to wait for you to take IELTS. Okay, and sometimes you get 6, and you have to retake again, and so on and so forth. But as long you are graduating from English speaking university, you can still justify the committee that you have a good command of English. I just have to make one point that starting from this semester, this intake, we have made Arabic as a mandatory requirement for graduations, not for admission, but for graduations, meaning that all of you, in addition to 55 credit hours, right, you'll be spending some time learning Arabic. It's a 0 credit for 2 semesters. The only thing that you have to pass the exam. Okay, and it makes sense because you're going to be graduating from an Arabic speaking nations. You go home in College of Islamic Studies, and you should be able to have some a good command of Arabic language as well. And especially this is Islamic program, some of the classes you probably gonna use Arabic a bit more, especially when you do literature review, so on and so forth. So this is new, and it's not only applicable to your program, it's actually applicable to all programs offered in CIS. It's not an entry requirement, it's a graduation requirement. So that means that you can still apply without Arabic, but when you graduate, you'll have a minimum of intermediate, which is A2, for you to graduate from this program. Okay. So this is very standard. The deadline, we forgot to update the slide. The deadline for residents and Qataris is 15th of March. For international, it's really close. It was 31st of March. I know some of you probably attending live streaming because you want to ask questions from the experts. But for locals and residents, the deadline is actually Qataris and residents, the deadline is actually 15th of March. So it's very important for you to be serious with your transcript. So please, this is also another issue. People apply using transcript, but then they fail to provide a copy of a certified transcript from the university to the admissions. This is going to become an issue as well because they will allow you to come in, but by the second semester, you have to provide a direct official transcript to the university. That means your university the previous university have to send it to the admission, or you can also go to your own university, ask for extra copy. We all do that. Whenever we apply for a PhD and masters, we just write to our university, we need more the official transcript because we are applying for PhDs and everything. So please do that. Because talking from experience, there are a lot of complication for failure to do that. So other than that, I don't have anything about the admission requirement. Transcript is very important. Personal statement is very important. English requirement is very important. Referee is also very important. Please do not ask the faculty to become your referee. All right, it doesn't. They cannot be promoting. So it's better that if you ask from outside. We just want to remove unbiasedness and being impartial in terms of. You can still do that, but preferably somebody who's not in the faculty, because they're the one who gonna select. So they cannot reject the one that they recommend. You get the point I'm trying to make? It doesn't make sense from governance point of view. Okay, just we want to make sure that we are transparent and avoid any biasness. So now the most important thing, scholarship. Okay, the one that you all are waiting for. Okay, the beauty about this program is that this is a 55 credit hours program. The normal master's program is only 36. But the university has been kind enough to charge the same fee as a 36 credit hours. So that means if you're even looking at, from purely economics point of view, I'm from economics and finance, it's really a value for money. You're paying for 36 credit hours, 55 credit hours, 36 credit hours, but you get a value of 55 credit hours. And this program is actually quite costly because it's also involved the clinical elements. Right? The university is building a new infrastructure, brand new, for these programs as well. So having said that, why we are saying all these things, because you cannot look at this fee as a form of charging you, but you have to really look at it as a means of what? Investments for your education. So we have two types of scholarship. One is for international students, and one is also for the locals and also residents. So two forms of scholarship. So the first one, we call it as scholarship. The other one, we call it as a tuition waiver. As an international, right now, you will be getting 100% tuition fee support, and you will also get a monthly stipends for a period of 2.5 years. Okay, and you will also get accommodations as it is. All right, the university is making some changes. I cannot say that whatever that I'm saying right now will remain the same, but the university will be fully supportive of the international students. And the number of scholarship is between 2 to 3. That means the 3 people who are going to get the scholarship will be the best among the applicants of the cohort. And for international, you probably know, for some program, we can get up to 200 applicants, 300 applicants, and we have to choose only 3. But for interlocal and resident, currently, the tuition fee is that you have to pay 50%, and the university will support the remaining 50% as what it is right now. Okay, but last year we were quite lucky because the institution like Awqaf agreed to support the remaining 50%. Okay, so Alhamdulillah, it was like a good year, like a third party organization willing to support the remaining 50%, meaning that the students still end up paying zero. That means it's 100% fully funded.
For all students?
For all students. But I cannot guarantee you that this will happen again. But what I'm trying to say is that the college is making effort to provide additional funding as much as possible to students, because our objective is not really to, people to make money from the fees, but we want to produce the best graduates that gonna make an impact, especially to the Muslim world. I don't want to start talking about the Muslim world. I think you all know how bad we are. A lot of failed state, problems everywhere and everything. But then we also see hope in country like Qatar, making impact and everything. And we bring all the amazing expert, so that you come here, you study, you don't have to worry so much about your financial issues. You just committed to knowledge, and when you graduate, you're gonna make significant impact to the society. That's the whole idea of the program. So let me stop here. Thank you so much. Now this time for Q&A. Everyone is ready to answer your questions. So leave it to you guys. Thanks for listening.
There's just one additional thing that I'll add that I thought would be probably important for, and it may come up as a question. So when you graduate, the name of the degree that you will receive on your diploma will be a Master's of Art in Counseling Psychology. You may then have this question mark, but I thought we're doing Islamic psychology. We are, but this is housed at the College of Islamic Studies, therefore it's a given. Number two, by additionally adding the name, we may create unnecessary stigma for individuals because we're a clinic, graduate mental health practitioners. They're going to be fully competent in all the modalities and practices of mental health and psychotherapeutic interventions. We don't want people to think this is some sort of pastoral care or sort of like a faith-based sort of, a lot of those terminologies usually imply that an individual is not a clinician. You will be licensed, eligible here in Qatar to become a licensed mental health practitioner here. And in fact, the program and curriculum has been designed in such a rigorous manner and consideration of international standards. That's why it's 55 degree credit hours. And the number of hours, actually, I don't know if it's updated, is 700 hours of clinical practice under training. This is unheard of in most parts of the Muslim world, this degree of rigor. It's quite common in many parts of the Western world. Not all, it's still rigorous according to that, but it's at the highest standards, which means that our hope is that when you graduate, you could potentially go anywhere in the world, ideally, and show them your transcript that has all of the necessary mental health related coursework, your clinical hours, internships, letters of recommendation from licensed psychiatrists and psychologists like ourselves, and work in a hospital, work in a school setting, work in, a university counseling center, wherever that may be. So we want to empower you to be able to maximize your utility of your degree post-graduation. And so that's why we're thinking about the way to be able to ensure that what you get in your hand at the end is going to give you maximal access to serving within the community. We don't want you to be marginal or some sort of alternative kind of therapies. We want you to be the mainstream and to reform and change the way that mental health is delivered through your unique visionary training.
I just want to add. The program will start in August. Okay. I forgot to mention one point. This is the only program with 4 courses per semester. Right. So, and then this is also the only program that you have to do the summer semester. Right. So why I'm mentioning this is that we are really looking for a serious candidate. It's going to be a lot of hard work. And the other beauty about this program is that when we launched this program, we were told by the Ministry of Higher Education that one of the key ingredients of this program is that we must have collaboration with all the relevant mental health institutions in the country. So that means that we have made effort to connect with Weill Cornell, with Sidra, with Hamad Hospitals, and I think you probably know we also have Dr. Rizwan with us. He's also a practitioner, psychiatrist. So we have a lot of experts that we're gonna bring them in, not on the top of these 4 people. And then for the clinical hours, we know that we may not get enough patients at the beginning, so you also will have a chance to practice in the one of the hospitals, either with Sidra or Hamad and so on and so forth. So this is a really an applied program. And the other point that we have to clarify a bit is that for research paper, if you want to go for PhD route, you can do the normal research paper, or you can also do a capstone project as well. See, this is another unique feature about the program which doesn't have in the other program. So you have internship, you have practical, you have capstone, you have research. So we have figured out whatever you want, and we also have a lot of industrial partnership and collaboration. Maybe I'm doing a bit more selling than required, but I believe that you are convinced that we are on the right track. All right. So let me just stop there and we'll take questions from you all. Doctor. We can take up to 15 to 20 students, all right? But as far as scholarship is concerned, right now we have budget for 3 internationals, and we also have for several local. But you can also come in from scholarship from outside. Either you are sponsored by your own organization. For Qatari, generally they will get a sponsor from Ministry of Higher Education, and we also trying to get more money from Awqaf. So the more availability of scholarship means that we can able to attract more, but we will not intake more than 20 students per class.
And self-paying is an option, right?
Yeah, self-paying is always an option. So yeah, so you know, so yeah.
You did not mention the fee. Yeah.
Oh, the total fee is 72,000 for 2 years. So 72,000 for 2 years for 55 credit hours. The full program. Yeah, yeah. So it is still a normal fee for the 36 credit hours program. So generally the way the college work is that each and every credit hours we charge 2,000 riyal. So 36 becomes 72. So meaning 55 means supposed to become 110. But for the first few cohorts, we are actually starting with 72. Okay, but we are limiting the spot to 20.
2.5 years.
2.5 years?
And
Yeah.
isn't that relatively long period for a full-time master?
Okay.
2.5 years.
There is a long debate that we had about these 2.5 years. I can explain to you from my experience of bringing this proposal many times to the committee. But we have to remember that this program will give an opportunity for licensing in Qatar. All right, so you need to fulfill that minimum practicum hours, and you add a few more years. I think as a practitioner, you will become a licensed practitioner. I think in your field, I'm not in your field, but I think having that license is very critical. So you cannot just take this program as if that it's a full education, but you need to see this program as a bridge of becoming an expert and a licensed expert in your field. Yeah. So if you see it that way, I think 2.5 years is actually a good investment. Yeah. Go on. Yeah.
So I would like to ask if when you have your master's degree, how about the opportunity to would you like to start with the program? Another question is, are these 700 hours going to contribute to my license process after graduating?
Yeah. So in
To mention why we put 600 practicum to comply with the international standards.
Yeah, so basically 700 hours, about 600 is typically the numbers for many places in the world for you to be able to get licensed. And so let's just imagine, you're an international student, you want to go back to your country, and you say, oh, I only had 300 hours. They say, well, you can't really make it up post-masters. That was during your graduate education. And so you really don't meet the requirements for qualification. Then you got to figure out a way to get into a graduate program and then try to count everything over and do that. So it's a very complex process. And believe me, 700 hours is not enough, in fact, in my opinion, for a clinician to be a very good, I mean, I think it's a good start, but you need to get supervision and mentorship afterwards. We're just, like, if you're looking at it as 700 hours, I'm done and I'm out of here, and then I can go do whatever I want, and that's a problematic perspective, right? What we want is, that's like the bare minimum we're saying, that you get done, and when you leave, we expect that you stay in contact with faculty or other mentors in the field to ensure that you continue your sort of development.
So the answer to your question is, for individuals with terminal degrees and master's degree, they require a completion of 3,000 hours, usually the equivalent of 2 years of practice after graduation. And initially, as soon as you graduate, you qualify for what is called an assistant psychologist kind of license. So that you'll keep that assistant psychologist license for 2 years. And then once you accrue the 7,000 hours or the 3,000 hours or the equivalent of 2 years of practice, then you can apply for a full license as a psychological counselor. Yeah.
So how many admission cycles does this program have? Is it only once a year?
Yeah, only once a year. We do have spring intake, but again, special circumstances to a special nature, and we have to make a strong justification to the university. We don't prefer that because there's going to be a misalignment between the courses, between first cohort and second cohort. But it's preferably you come in the first intake. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. I have two quick questions. One of them is regarding working while studying. So for me, I will be working from 7 to 3 p.m. So is that possible with the master's program?
A photo of you has just been taken while you're saying you're going to work while studying, so it's documented now.
Yeah, no, it's not possible. This is 55 credit hour research plus clinical hours that you're going to. We want you to live here. I don't want to scare you, all right? So we're is an amana. We're going to entrust people's lives to you. So now, granted, outside of here, if you're able to manage on your own time, fair enough. We're not going to sort of like follow you around and ensure. If you can manage a short, small work schedule of, I don't know, 10 hours a week or something like that, doing something part-time or engaged in another. But if you're planning on working full-time while you're doing this program honestly isn't for you. Maybe you can do one of the 36-hour credit courses, programs.
Like, I have a second question. You said that there's a 100-hour and 300 and then there's 700. I didn't understand the differences between those numbers.
So 100 practicum, that's an initial start, and then there's going to be 2 sets of 300 hours. It'll be spread out over the course of your second year, 2 semesters, right? So in total, it makes 700 hours. Yeah.
Because it's hard to fulfill the 600 hours in one semester.
Yeah.
So just to answer your first question about working while studying, you can just to answer your question about working while studying, you can still apply, and as Dr. mentioned, we're not gonna control what you do outside of the program, but it's going to be very daunting and quite demanding in terms of kind of managing and balancing. It's four classes a week each semester, so every evening will be basically occupied with classes in addition to all the readings and the papers and all of that.
Just a follow-up question to that. In my work, I would be considered as an associate psychologist. So does that, the clinical hours that I do in my work, would they be calculated as the working hours that I can, can they cover the 700 hours?
Are you practicing independently or under supervision?
Under supervision. I have not started yet, but I will soon start at the hospital here in Qatar regarding that.
We need to look into it.
It's something that we can discuss on a case-by-case basis. But I would probably say just off the bat that I don't imagine that we would sort of allow that for the entirety of the 700 hours. Maybe there could be some sort of waiver, because the idea is that, again, we're wanting to monitor your practice of Islamically integrated psychotherapy. So if you practice, I don't know, some other modality and you learn the theory from us, but we never observe the way that you actually utilize that theory, it kind of defeats the purpose of the program. Yeah.
15 of March. 15 of March. 15 of March. Please.
When will you inform international students about the admission decision?
We are still waiting for the second batch of international applications because it was just closed on 31st. So the admission office has to filter. The thing about HBKU is that it's quite popular. They receive like 60,000-70,000 of applications. So it takes time for them to filter, to clean up all the good ones and then, the incomplete ones, so on and so forth. So once we got the second batch, and then they have completed the first review of the first batch, then they will put together with the second batch, and then they will do the interview, and then they will rank the candidate, and then they will give the offer for the first three for international. So the one, if they reject, and then they will go for the fourth one, and so on and so forth. So that's how it works for the international student. So most likely you might hear from them by end of March, right? And you still have like 4 months to prepare for the visa and prepare yourself and so on and so forth. So we are quite good in terms of informing the international students in advance, because we know that you have to do a lot of preparation to come to Qatar. Yeah. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
My question's related to you, like, for example, you said that you need to have some sort of prior education in psychology to be able to qualify for the program. What if you don't have it? Like, what if you don't have a course in psychology, but you still want to embark on this journey? Like, is there any way possible?
Yeah, so you would have to do some foundational courses in psychology, like Psych 101, maybe like Biobases and Abnormal Psychology, some of these classes, and then at a university level or equivalency, and then get some sort of certificate or transcript demonstrating that you've done that, and then you would put it along with your application, and in that case we would consider it.
Okay, so for example, I studied at a Canadian university before, and then when I moved to Qatar, I couldn't continue there because I didn't have an online program.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have a foundational psychology course that I've done.
Course or courses?
Well, it was supposed to be 2 courses, but then I moved here.
Yeah.
So I was in between the second course when I moved here.
Sure.
So when I switched, when I did my degree, I actually switched my program completely.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has nothing to do with psych. But
Got
I do
it.
have that Foundation 101 course. So can I apply on basis of that?
Probably not on the foundation of just 101,
Right.
but what you would want to do is maybe just kind of email us and we can provide you with some guidelines around what type of courses that you might want to take and consider maybe thinking about the following year, and during the course of this year, sort of taking some of those, as a sort of an auditor in a university here, if they allow that, to sort of just take a couple of those courses anywhere where they offer that. It could even be virtually, for that matter.
So I wouldn't be able to apply for this year,
No,
though?
because you wouldn't have had your courses ready outside of the 101.
Right.
What's
Yeah.
your first degree?
Sorry?
What's your first degree in?
I'm a bachelor's in information tech.
Can you find connections?
I mean, I've done other stuff, but it's no relation to psych.
Maybe AI and mental.
I have a lot of recommendations. I know so much, but it's something that I really want to do, and I feel like this would have been perfect. But if there's something if there's a way around it where I could simultaneously maybe do a course and still apply and not lose that chance of getting in this year. So if that's something that we could maybe talk about, then I'd be interested.
It's generally not recommended. So I did my undergrad in biology,
Right.
and I didn't take any psychology classes. So before I applied to my PhD program, I took 3 or 4 courses at another college got those funds, because the thing is you want to come in with like that foundational knowledge so you can get started rather than trying to understand what we're talking about and then trying to understand the foundations. I think it would make it a lot more challenging, given that this is at a graduate level and we're still expecting everyone to, and from an undergrad perspective, to be at the same level.
Right. The case you could make is if you enroll right now in 2 courses, let's say, and submit your application by March 15th, and in your personal statement say, I am working on these courses, hoping to complete them before the beginning of the program in August. Then
Sorry, just a corrections on these slides. Research proposal is not required, and Arabic is not required, right? So this is just a complete for masters and PhD, all right? Okay. Yeah, it's on the and the deadline as well, 15th of March. Yeah, sorry. ChatGPT. I think that's one. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
As long as it's from an accredited university somewhere in the world.
That was my question as well.
Yeah.
It's an online option.
I'm Zainab Rizvi. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology, and I have work experience also, but that was many years ago, almost like 9 years ago. So can I put that in my?
Yeah,
I used to work. I used to manage psychological services
MashaAllah.
to underprivileged children, Muslim children in Bombay. I used to work for an NGO. So we used to manage municipal schools, and I was the head of department there. So, but it's old. It's like years ago, 9 years ago.
It's okay.
But they say in the form it's written 3 years.
3 years of work experience, maybe?
No, they're saying recent work experience. That's what I read in the form.
Your mother.
That's your recent.
Do you know anything?
My recent work experience is mom. 3 children. 3 kids.
No, right?
No, I don't think so.
When we are looking into applications of people who had a long kind of period, kind of gap, that post-graduation, the first thing we look at is the resume and see if they did some work in psychology, mental health in the past, and that kind of boosts your application.
So I can put that, right?
Yeah.
And another question is, who should we ask to refer us? Who are your ideal referees?
People who know you very well and can speak to not just a generic sort of referral, but like know your competencies and know you very well. So,
if I can just
academics, professors, supervisors.
If I can add, the selection criteria for internationals and the locals differ a bit. This is just from experience. Because for international, you are competing with a larger pool, right? So that means you really have to put effort on your referee, on your personal statements. For locals, sometimes just having a good transcript, graduating from a good university, a decent personal statement, is easy because the numbers of local and resident is like we can take 17 people or 15 people. But for international, we're only fighting for 3 scholarships. So what I'm trying to say here is that you also have to put a lot of effort into it as well. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Get a referee from, let's say, well-known person, so that people will take it seriously. Or this is coming from this guy, we should take it seriously. So all these little things actually matters. You may not think that it matters, but trust me, for international applications, it's very competitive. Yeah.
Get a letter from Dr. Iskandar.
I rejected all because I'm the final decision maker, so I cannot be rejecting my own recommendation. So yeah.
Another question is regarding the course. What student profile are you looking for, in the sense people are varied in their ideological inclinations, and it was reflected today in the conference, because we saw people coming from varied mazhabs. So people have like different mazhabs inclinations. So how will that be reflected in the coursework? Will there be a variety of mazhabs
A
or
buffet.
Buffet, you can choose. Mazhab.
thought,
The
or will
Maliki
it
version,
be
the
like
Hanafi version.
one
Go ahead.
version?
Go ahead. That's for you.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, you did masters in Islamic ethics. Yeah.
What did you notice today in the symposium that made you ask this question? What did you see in the symposium today that makes you ask this
I
question?
thought that it was pretty varied. There were people from all sorts of ideological backgrounds in Islam. I thought it was very varied, but I was wondering if it would reflect in the course.
Did you feel that this was a good thing or a bad thing?
I thought it was a great thing.
Okay, so
I thought it was
we
wonderful.
so we are the ones who invited all these people to speak. So
Yes,
it
yes.
shows that we are keen on representing the the different the diversity that is within the Islamic psychology field. In our choice of textbooks and so on, each model has its own kind of inclinations. Like the TIP model has its own inclinations, but we are also going to expose students to different models and so on. So you're not gonna you're not here to be converted into one ideology or the other. So the diversity is hopefully going to be represented in the program as well. Dr. Haman, anything you want to add? And it's not a Islamic fiqh program where you have to select a madhab and kind of study under. Yeah.
I just want to make another point, which is quite important. Once you become a student of HBKU, you also have access to our so-called other universities within Qatar Foundations. So you can attend, for example, some seminars in Weill Cornell. You can, for example, listen to lecture in Georgetown and everything. So you have access to all the facilities of Education City. So it actually means a lot. And trust me that all these branch campuses, they bring some of the top-notch scholars to Qatar. And that's another, I would say personally, as somebody who came from other countries, from Malaysia, I benefited a lot from attending all these programs that offered within Education City. All right, thank you. Yes, go.
Firstly, thank you for the informative session. I'm inquiring about the eligibility to actually make an application. So I come from an education background. I do have my bachelor's as well as a master's in education from the UK. I'm very interested in this field of psychology because I've been working with parents, and especially young children, and I do think in society, I really want to work with families, not necessarily as a clinician, but I don't have any clinical practice. Would I be eligible to apply for this course?
Did you say you don't envision yourself becoming a clinician? Is that what you're saying?
He doesn't have experience.
Right, you don't have any clinical practice, but you're saying you want to become a clinician or you don't?
Because my field is education, I work with very young children. I work with Ministry of Education. I'm currently working for Qatar and Crescent. And again, due to the conflict, we're working on programs for psychosocial support. So I'm not a specialist.
Yeah.
However, I have a deep interest, and I think I could contribute. And I'm a bit worried about it.
Yeah, we would have to review your application. Generally, the simple answer is no for somebody who doesn't have a psychology-related degree. But you can enhance that by saying, I have been working in the field and doing X, Y, and Z, direct, experiences in the field, doing psychosocial support, school counseling, etc. And then again, it would be a question of whether you have core psychology courses reflected in your transcript as well. And if you don't, then you would have to go back and get that as well. And so if you can do those two things and submit your application, then we would definitely consider it. We'd have to look at the transcript, yeah. Yeah, and you would want to highlight that in your personal statement. Yeah.
Can we just take one last questions before the prayer time? Yeah, two person. Yeah, the gentleman there and yeah. Why don't we start with you first?
My daughter is already working in this country. She graduated 4 years ago from Malaysia, Nottingham University. She's working in the private sector. She worked with fish and step by step, and now she's working as part-time with a Canadian private hospital as a psychotherapist, and she's licensed. obviously. So I just wanted to know if that waiver is anything she's born here, she's educated here, she's, Qatari without the passport. I am here for the last quarter of a century.
MashaAllah.
So she has a lot of great points. Her mother has established clinical psychology in Hamad Medical Corporation. So I don't know if that would waiver anything. I'm not happy with the 2.5 years, but then she will be with us here in Qatar, the same out.
Exemptions of
Would
hours.
that waiver anything? Would that give her any advantage?
Dr. Khairi is a psychiatrist from Hamad. He's a close supervisor. He's a supervisor of mine when I was doing my training. And why does she? So she's currently working as a psychotherapist. Why does she need the master's degree?
No, she's just working with the bachelor. Of course.
I see.
And that is just work after graduation. We didn't find any jobs in Hamad. Obviously, we're still looking for them. But I just thinking, about
Assumptions.
Yeah. So she seems to qualify to kind of meet the basic requirements in terms of a degree in psychology, work in mental health, and all of that. Your only concern is the duration of the program, and whether because her courses are an undergrad level courses, which would not waive any of the master's level courses. But yeah, initially when we put the proposal for the program, it was a 2-year program, and then we extended it to 2.5 years. And we had discussions about if someone is able to complete all the thesis requirements or the capstone project within 2 years, they can graduate within 2 years. They don't have to stay on for 2.5 years. But it's going to be almost impossible to do anything less than 2 years to meet all the requirements for graduation. Yeah.
Also, you need to consider that the degree is in counseling psychology.
Correct.
She wants to have a degree in clinical psychology. This is not the course for her. So she needs to be clear about her career prospects in the future. She wants to work in counseling versus psychotherapy.
Okay, can we just take one last question?
My name is Ibrahim. Just I have a question about the application requirement. Where it says TOEFL or IELTS. For example, my bachelor degree from Arab University, where we took the courses, for example, English part, and part of them is Arabic University of Jordan. And I have a clinical supervision counseling, high professional diploma specialties, with the 22 or 3 years experience from psychologist, school counselor, mental health, and supervisory level with the school setting, clinic setting. So I have also international experience around maybe 15 years where all of the working practitioner in English, my language. Though still I need to prove IELTS or TOEFL. And right now also I'm working as a lead social worker, supervising and will support psychologists, for example, counselor, social worker across Qatar Foundation School. And I'm part of the BUA University Crisis Team and Wellbeing Committee here in the Education City. So just I'm clarifying, and the last comment about the full time. I do work full time, so I don't know how that will impact if I attend these courses, evening courses, my work, if I'm practicing the same thing. Last one thing also, recently we had something, I think there is 50 online courses for the community across Qatar Foundation School, where they required me to prepare a online course about well-being and the classroom management from the perspective of Islam and national curriculum, which I prepared because this is kind of the requirement at Qatar Foundation Schools, because to the introduction you have mentioned from Islamic perspective and contribute and use the Islamic, for example, and Quran and Hadith to support our students.
Let me just answer the first one. As I said, you can apply without English. Okay, and the admission committee can provide exemptions based on your experience and your education background and everything. But if they feel that it's not sufficient, then you have 1 semester to submit your IELTS. Okay, but in most cases, consider your experience and everything. We are quite confident that the university will consider exemptions. That's the answer to the questions.
And the comment I have about the other pieces, I feel like with the extensive experience you have in the current job, perhaps you may consider the certificate program that we are going to offer in 2025, It's going to be a one-year program, a shorter program, just a certificate, not a master's degree program. And it's going to basically give the core courses that, for anyone interested in Islamically integrated psychotherapy and psychology, we'll offer you these core courses without having to go through the entire master's program. So I'm not sure if you need the master's degree in order for promotion purposes and other purposes, or you are looking to learn the Islamic side of things and integrate that within your work. Then maybe the graduate certificate would be a good option for you to explore.
Yeah. So just like what Dr. Khalid says, the university or the college is planning to come out with a graduate certificate in Islamic psychology. So this is purely for the practitioner who already have knowledge but want to move to the Islamic side. So there's no clinical hours and so on and so forth. Most likely we are planning to launch it in 2025. Okay.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Can you, you said 4 classes per week. So what would the timings be?
4 to 7.
4 to 7.
Yeah. All our classes are standard. 4 to 7. In Ramadan will be 2:30 to 5:30 or 2 to 5. Yeah. With half an hour break for prayers. All right. So, yeah. Okay. So, thank you so much for being here. So, looking forward to receive your applications, inshallah. So, and looking forward, to see you as our student, inshallah. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum. Yep. We have refreshment outside. Please, you can take this opportunity to mingle around with